Well, for more on the debate over race relations and police reform in the United States, we're joined now by Ray Baker. He's a political commentator and multimedia journalist who was actually in Ferguson last year. Welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, it's been 1 year since the death of Michael Brown. Have there been significant changes, or are we just more aware of the problems in the United States?
Sadly, I think we're just more aware. CNN Money not long ago just did a report that ostensibly said Ferguson is up to its old tricks. And what we found, particularly with African-American men and women, police officers and law enforcement across the nation use minor violations for everything from funding their city's revenues to looking up that young person or that person's records to see if they may have an outstanding warrant or how to pursue them.
What changes, Ray, have actually been made? We've talked about body cameras. U.S. President Barack Obama has earmarked monies for these nationwide. What other changes have we seen come about since the death of Michael Brown in the United States?
The changes have been a front row eyewitness to the vicious and violent murder of many African-American citizens. Not long ago, we saw Sam DuBose be shot and killed by a University of Cincinnati police officer from that body camera. And this Cincinnati police officer at the time suggested that Mr. DuBose tried to use his vehicle as a weapon against him, but that didn't turn out to be so. But the body cameras has been quickly a go-to solution as to how to alleviate some of the problems between citizens and law enforcement. Now, the hope is that body cameras can then begin to penalize folks, that those law enforcement officers who are committing these atrocious crimes can go to jail. And then we have to then hope that jail is a deterrent. But that's a series of hopes that we are waiting for while many African-American men and women are being killed.
Why do you think that so many African-American people are being singled out?
Unfortunately, to be black in the United States is to be a persistent threat to humanity. We have to get to a point where our existence doesn't cause someone else to see ourselves as a threat. So African Americans have to be able to engage other citizens, particularly law enforcement, and law enforcement that is black, white, Asian, Latino, or other. Those folks have to be able to see African Americans and not see threat.
Do you think this is about poverty, or do you think it's about race?
It's about race. It's about race at every level. It's about race on any level. Because we find that white Americans who are poor are committing crimes in comparable numbers and statistics in the way that black Americans are, but are not coming away from these incidences, or these interactions with law enforcement, with the fatality in the way that we see African Americans are. So when we look at those metrics and we equate for poverty, when we equate for racial dynamics, we see that African Americans are still disproportionately being violently killed by law enforcement.
The death of Michael Brown has undoubtedly sparked a national conversation, which many believe in the United States has been good, that this has made inroads, that people have come together in smaller communities, not just in Ferguson, but in South Carolina. There was a shooting of Walter Scott, Freddie Gray in Baltimore, Maryland, who was 25, Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old who was holding a BB gun in another U.S. state. All of this has sparked a national debate. Do you believe that the debate, is part of the step to the road to bringing people of all ethnicities together?
Ideally, we'd want to say yes. America often suggests that optimism is our only hope in perilous times. Unfortunately, history and the evidence of history do not give me any reason to be so optimistic. I think it won't be until human beings see each other just as that, human beings particularly, that African Americans will be able to engage law enforcement and reasonably and comfortably come away feeling like they will not be killed. We saw just recently Christian Taylor, who was a young man who tweeted about how he did not want to die at the hands of law enforcement, was unarmed and died at the hands of law enforcement. Sandra Bland, who was famous for the case in Texas, was famous in her activity and her voice about speaking out against some of the things that was happening to African Americans in the Black Lives Matter movement. And these people are killed. And so our optimism, the best in us as human beings, suggests that we want to think that this conversation, this dialogue would make things better. But folks were articulating 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, 50 years ago in Watts, that this uproar would make things better. In the 1990s, that this Rodney King moment would make things better. And then with Michael Brown, this will make things better. But for many black Americans, we're just now getting a front row seat to our own demise.
Ray Baker, we appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.